So I keep saying this. It's been a really strange year for Xbox. I mean, if you look at their first-party lineup, they have a good, strong, upcoming library of games like Hellblade 2. They have Avowed coming this year. There's the new Indiana Jones game. And the list just kind of goes on and on and on. They have a strong, upcoming lineup, not just for this year, but for years to come as well. And then if you look at what happened last year, they also brought Activision Blizzard into the fold, and that should make a big impact on Xbox Game Pass and its subscribers. So with all of these new studios and acquisitions finally producing, it just feels like their plans are starting to come together. 2024 is the mark of a new era for Xbox in certain ways. Despite its strong lineup, though, it feels like there's been some looming questions with their new multi-platform business direction. And that once again started to heat up online over the weekend, and I'll explain why and what exactly is happening. Now, we will also talk about Mario Day, as Nintendo had their own little event where they made a string of announcements. I'm pretty happy about all of that, so do make sure to stay tuned for that, but let's just go and get right into this Xbox situation. So over the last week or so, a few different rumors started to explode online, and one thing that I've always kind of noticed about Xbox rumors specifically, especially the negative ones, is that they really gain a lot of traction rapidly, even if the sources aren't necessarily all that great. And that's really what kind of happened in both of these situations. Last week, there were some claims that a Starfield PlayStation 5 port is in the works. Now, that would be a huge turn of events if true, and honestly, it would be very interesting to see that play out, just because, the PlayStation community wasn't exactly nice to this game. But nonetheless, there was also another rumor going around this weekend that Hellblade 2 is heading over to the PlayStation 5 as well. So these are two major Xbox console exclusives supposedly, allegedly, coming over to PlayStation. And this is not a Sea of Thieves or Pentiment situation. These are newer games that can be classified as AAA titles. So if they were to go to the PlayStation 5 this soon, I feel like Xbox would have a lot more explaining to do. I can't really imagine that going over well with their fans. But the thing is that both of these rumors have already been debunked by Jez Corden over on Windows Central. Last week, in a response to the Starfield rumors, he said this: "Since some people are asking me about the latest round of Starfield rumors, I'll say definitively, I have great sourcing that nobody is working on Starfield for PlayStation right now. Nobody knows what the longer-term future holds, but don't expect it anytime soon." He even went on to reiterate that there's not an outsourced port either. He said it just isn't in development right now. You won't see Starfield on or announced for PlayStation 5 in 2024. But who knows what the industry looks like in 3+ years. That's the only door I'm leaving open. And that is worth noting here. Who knows what's going to happen 3+ years from now? Your guess is as good as mine. But then over the weekend, in response to the Hellblade 2 rumor, he also said that he can confirm that that rumor, as of right now, is completely false. So the thing is that Jez Corden is a reliable insider, much more of a reliable insider than some of the other rumors going around here lately. But he did clarify that he was able to investigate thoroughly, and he was able to definitively confirm that these games are not in development right now for the PS5. So I think as of right now, these rumors are debunked. But that is also the crux to this entire situation. You have to kind of look at why people are buying into these rumors, and I think that really all comes down to Xbox's decision. Xbox kind of opened themselves up for these rumors because, and we've talked about this before, they opened up Pandora's box, and that's all there is to it, which is also interesting to think about because even Phil Spencer alluded to this problem years ago when he was asked about porting more games over to Nintendo like they did with the Ori franchise. Back then, he said that he didn't want to do that anymore because ultimately what happens is that fans suddenly start to speculate on what's next. Is Halo going to come over to Nintendo? Is Gears of War heading to PlayStation? Is it going to be the Elder Scrolls 6? Will that launch on all of these consoles at the same time? And then suddenly you have all of these different rumors on all of this speculation from random people because the rumors are now a lot more believable. The questions go on and on and on, and I feel like that's always been a problem with the Xbox brand, or at least since the Xbox One generation. There's always those questions, and you really don't want these questions looming the way they often do at Xbox. Now, there's an argument to be made that Microsoft's leadership, like Tim Stewart and others, are the ones pulling the strings with these decisions behind the scenes, and not necessarily Team Xbox directly. There were some initial reports that there were internal disagreements behind the scenes over this multi-platform approach, but regardless of who or who didn't make these decisions, what I'm trying to say is that Microsoft ultimately invited these rumors in. There's definitely some pros and cons by putting your games on another rival console. The pros, which we will get into that here in a little bit, something very interesting happened over this weekend, but the con obviously is that it does bring a lot of questions for the Xbox brand, and that's something that we really saw in both of these situations. I don't think that either rumor was particularly believable based on the source. It's something that really should not have exploded the way it did online, but it did. And the only reason that it calmed down was because an actual reliable source, being Jez Corden, debunked it online. So, it's just this whole crazy situation that's happening right now within Xbox, and that's been the summary for them this year. They have a really good lineup of games, but there is a looming question that surrounds their brand, and you can really feel that, I think, within the community. I want to hear your all's thoughts on this whole situation, though. How do you feel about this direction right now? How do you feel about the rumors? Do you think Xbox brought it on themselves? Do you think they're making a mistake? I mean, there's so many questions right now, so let me hear all your thoughts in the comments below. Despite that, though, our next topic is actually very interesting because it ties into this, and it shows that Xbox is actually having at least some success on one other platform. This was revealed on the PlayStation Store over the weekend, and check this out. This is very interesting stuff. I mean, I think we can say that the PS5 has a pretty busy lineup over the next few months. They have games like Rise of the Ronin coming, there's Stellar Blade, and then there's also Dragon's Dogma 2. So there's some big games slated for PlayStation here in just the next couple months, but interestingly, it's Xbox's new port, being Sea of Thieves. That's currently the most pre-ordered game on PlayStation in the United States. I do believe it's number one in a few other regions as well, but that's actually kind of crazy to think about. I think Xbox fans have known this for a while, but Sea of Thieves is a very good game. It was criticized a lot at launch for not having enough content, but ultimately Sea of Thieves turned out to be a great game. It'll be very interesting to see what kind of review scores it gets on PlayStation because it's a much more complete game now. But clearly what we're seeing here is that the PlayStation community is very excited to play it themselves. In fact, Sony seems excited as well. I think we all know that Sony wants more successful live service games on PlayStation, and ironically, Xbox is one of the better live service publishers around with games like Sea of Thieves. This has been a very successful game for Xbox, and now reportedly, Sony has been directly helping Rare with this port. Yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see how this game performs once it officially releases on PlayStation, because I'm sure Microsoft is going to track this game very closely to see how it does on PlayStation. If it has a lot of success, it'll be very hard for them to argue a case against more live service games on PlayStation in the future. So I actually think this is going to be a very important release to pay attention to once it does come to PlayStation. But again, clearly so far, it's gotten off to a great start on PlayStation with a lot of pre-orders. Now, we did also get some good news from Nintendo over the weekend, and this makes me very happy personally. For those that don't know, I am a big fan of Paper Mario. It's one of my favorite childhood games, and I'm very much excited about the Thousand Year Door returning with a remaster. Who knows? Maybe if it's successful enough, maybe Nintendo will finally make a new entry more like the classics. I mean, why did we go away from those games anyways? I'll never understand. But back to the point, Nintendo celebrated Mario Day with a string of announcements. Paper Mario: The Thousand Year Door is officially slated for a May 23rd release. Then Luigi's Mansion 2 HD will be out 1 month later on June 27th. I think a lot of people are really going to like that game specifically. Luigi's Mansion 3 has been a huge hit for the Switch this generation. And the thing about both of these games is that I think a lot of people that owns a Switch really haven't played these games in the past. So I think these are going to be fun additions to the Switch library that a lot of people just unfortunately missed out on in the past. These, however, though, are their next two big games after Princess Peach Showtime. And with these three games now all having release dates, this more or less sets them up for the first half of 2024. Now, once these games release, though, I think that's when things will start to get really interesting for Nintendo, because the number one question on everybody's mind right now is, what's after that? By all indication, the Switch 2 will release in early 2025, but could they at least announce it this year? I'll be very curious to see how all this unfolds post-June because, even this holiday, it's going to come with some major questions for Nintendo. If the rumors were true that Nintendo was originally planning a late 2024 release for the Switch 2, well, what exactly does that mean for their software lineup this holiday? Did those games get delayed as well? Those are looming questions for Nintendo right now, but in the meantime, the next few months does look like a lot of fun for the Switch. Again, I understand that these games are remasters, but they are still very good games, both of which I think a lot of current Switch owners simply missed out on in the past. This is an opportunity for these games to be exposed to the 140 million Switch consoles that are out in the wild. As an added bonus for Mario Day, though, Nintendo did also announce a second Mario movie with Illumination once again. I mean, the first movie was a massive success, so no big surprise here, but they actually gave us a precise release date. It will be out on April 3rd of 2026. So go ahead and mark your calendars for the far out future. And then lastly, they announced a few Mario-based games for Switch Online. This includes Dr. Mario, Mario Golf, and Mario Tennis. Now, these are all Game Boy and Game Boy Color games, but all of which are fondly remembered. Definitely go give them a try if you're a subscriber, and happy Mario Day to everyone. I thought it was actually a pretty good celebration, all things considered. One last thing, though, we do unfortunately have another studio closure to talk about, this time being the studio that was connected to PlayStation, being Deviation Games. This partnership happened back in 2021 when PlayStation on stage announced a partnership with Deviation Games, and they were very excited about this at the time because it's a studio created by former Call of Duty veterans Dave Anthony and Jason Blundell. They certainly seem to have a lot of talent within the studio, and they were supposedly developing a groundbreaking AAA live service project. The thing is, though, is that last year reports started to come out that there were some problems within the studio. A lot of people were leaving, including the co-founder, Jason Blundell, who, interestingly, joined PlayStation. More on that here in just a second, but let's just go and take a look here at the official announcement by Deviation Games. This is from Christy Stahl, and she said, "It is with a heavy heart that we announce the closure of Deviation Games. I want to express my deepest gratitude to our entire team. Thank you for all your hard work, dedication, and contributions to Deviation. I'm incredibly grateful for the opportunity to have worked with each and every one of you. To the entire video game industry, we will be hosting a networking event, and we would love for all companies, studios hiring to participate. Please reach out to me directly if you are interested in attending." So, I really do hope everybody bounces back on their feet as soon as possible. It is a very unfortunate situation. I never enjoy talking about these topics, but I do kind of wonder what happened here to some extent. To see a brand new studio like this, that PlayStation was very excited about when they announced that partnership, and to see the studio fall apart that quickly, and then to have the co-creator join PlayStation's internal studios, you have to kind of wonder what exactly is going on with all this. It sounds like there might have been some kind of internal disagreements maybe, and then Sony possibly just backed Jason and some of their other employees. I mean, there's no public announcement on any of this just yet, but it does sound like Sony brought in some of them and they're working internally over at PlayStation. What exactly? That's something that we don't currently know, but it will be a very interesting story to kind of see develop as we start to learn more. Anyways, though, that's going to be it for this episode. Let me hear your thoughts on the Xbox situation. What do you think about all of the rumors that's floating around? Also, what did you think about Mario Day? Are you excited for Paper Mario and Luigi's Mansion? Are you going to pre-order those? Let me know in the comments below. But until next time, peace out.